Hello people, my name is Matt. I am here making this video for you guys today to shed some light on the confusion surrounding Bitcoin. Take from this video what you will. Of course, I'm going to be posting it on the internet, YouTube, Facebook, and I'm also sending it to a couple of federal lawyers across the country, which will remain unnamed for obvious reasons. I'm not a very social person by any means. However, I've been using a computer since the age of 7 years old. I started with command line programming and just branched off from there, and today we have all different programming languages, most of which I'm familiar with, but that's just scratching the tip of the iceberg. Anyways, I'm going to get back to the point of this video. Bitcoin, this is something that you guys need to know. And I don't feel that I'm a traitor to my nation or to my government for posting this video, for the simple fact that our government, what it once stood for, and the laws that they made were meant to protect people. But like everything that they've ever done throughout history, everything they do is calculated, and it's timed to an exact point in the future. And there's a reason for that. So that way they can retain control throughout history. This is how they've done it since the beginning of time. First, they started off with the Bible. That was a form of control. And for those of you that don't believe that, I urge you to research that. Another factor that comes into play, and if you pay attention, and the things that you're taught in school is on purpose. The agenda comes directly from the government to the state. The state has to follow certain guidelines, federal guidelines, when they teach people. Now, these guidelines don't say that they have to tell you everything about everything. These guidelines simply keep people in line to a certain extent. Let me collect my thoughts for a moment. When you went to school as children, when I went to school as a child, we were taught here in the United States that we pledge allegiance to the flag and for the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, right? And you had to stand up in class with your hand on your heart, and you had to pledge allegiance. Nobody ever really thought to not pledge allegiance because it was the normal thing to do. And that is exactly the thing I'm talking about when it comes to government manipulation. They do everything on purpose. Everything that they've done throughout history has been a move on the chessboard, which is their game. The technology we use today, the camera that I'm recording with, all made by the government. Everything. The internet, Bitcoin, the hashing algorithm that Bitcoin uses, everything. And they are, by any and all means, the biggest criminals in the world. And they always have been. How do you think they keep control throughout history? They transfer wealth from a certain population at a certain point in time, and they use the guise of terrorism, the war on drugs, all kinds of different reasons. They come up with these things. Terrorism is the number one thing. And now they're moving on to money laundering. It's no coincidence, because now comes along this law. It's called civil asset forfeiture, and the federal government and the local and state police are allowed to use it. They don't have to have any reason to believe that you're committing a crime. All they have to do is have suspicion. They can just make something up, and they can say, well, he has a lot of money, so you know something, he must be tied to some sort of criminal activity because he has X amount of dollars. And then they take it and they call it civil asset forfeiture. They forfeit it from you, and you're not able to get it back. And if you try to get your whatever belongings they took or money back, you will spend all kinds of money in the legal system, which is basically the new banking system, to try to fight and get it back. And these are facts. There's no, you can't hide that. There's a lot of innocent people in prison today, many of which did not commit any crimes. You know, a lot of them probably did, but on the flip side, there's also innocent people in there, and they don't care. You know what I mean? They don't care. And a good example of them not caring, here's one. They will never apologize for anything, for any wrongdoing. They will try to conceal, hide, manipulate, and extort from people all at the same time. And they're very cunning. They're very intelligent people. I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna say anything bad because what they're doing is bad, but they are not stupid by any means. They have the technology, the resources, and the manpower to do whatever they want. And right now, what it seems is that they want to extract money from their citizens and control them, and control the way that they think. And the way that they do this is 1, through religion, 2, schools, 3, drugs, 4, media. So there's 4 very popular ways that they're able to manipulate the way people think and the way people act. And it's obvious. You know, if the governments of the world had been doing their job and they had been fighting these wars on drugs and terrorism, then all these acts of terrorism would not have happened at their hands. And while all the while they conceal what they're doing, and they blame Al-Qaeda, they blame ISIS, they blame, you know, Joe Schmo from down the street. And this is all used as a tactic to cover what they're doing, but they're not doing a good job. I've said this before. But regarding Bitcoin, Bitcoin was in fact created by the NSA. I can't tell you exactly how I know this. I can't tell you exactly when this happened, but what I can tell you is that they've had this plan for a long time. They've had this. They've had the technology planned for a long time, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop it. Everything that they do has to take place over long periods of time. Otherwise, they would lose control. And that's the way they do it. They stand the test of time. They manipulate people. They get people to do what they want through any and all means, whether it be extortion, force, enforcement, taxation. There's a good one. And you know, I feel like I said, I don't know if I said this yet, but I feel like me making this video, I'm not exactly going up against my government, for the simple fact that when I was a child, life wasn't like this. I was able to go outside, play till 8 o'clock at night. My mother would tell me, come home when the street lights come on. Now today, you can't. Because there's all these stories about kids going missing, or pedophiles, or bad things happening, shootings, stabbings. It's just never ending. And it's not because people have changed. It's because people have the government has changed the way that people have thought over time. And you can see it happening. For instance, the media. When I was a kid, we had maybe 3 or 4 channels, and they didn't have much news. And if they did, it wasn't all negative. They were usually talking about local things going on, never terrorist acts, which is strange. And now, all of a sudden, you have never-ending stories about drug overdoses, police shootings, terrorism, all these different things. And it's not by accident, by any means. It's all done on purpose. and it's to confuse and to keep people distracted while the governments move their pieces on their game, which is the chessboard of life. They do this so that they can retain control over long periods of time, like I said. For instance, the Nazis, 1933 to 1945, right? They killed 6 million people, most of which were Jews, according to the stories. And then guess what? The Third Reich, they fell. The Roman Empire, the way that they extracted money from their citizens, and this is their government, right? Keep that in mind. The Roman government, what they did, instead of, because they weren't spending the money the way that it was supposedly meant to be spent. The Caesar at the time, he ended up basically being greedy, taking all the money, spending it at will, not doing what he was supposed to with it. And it was gold, right? So you couldn't really forge that. But what they did, and this is genius, is they started taxing people on their gold coins. They would take little chunks off the side of the coin in order to tax them. Smart move. Let me tell you, smart move. And that didn't stop there. What they did with silver was they would dilute it with other metals until the point where it wasn't even silver anymore. Kind of like what the U.S. government is doing with our coins. They started doing this, I think in the United States around maybe 1960, 1970, and then you started to see coins never again with silver unless they're from the mint. And now they're made out of zinc and other filler metals, basically, because it's not worth the weight in metal. It's a precious metals, and that's what it was supposed to be backed by. Every currency in the world is backed by the US dollar. It's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver. So, this is what's going to happen in the future. The US dollar is going to collapse. I can't say exactly when, I can't say how, I can't say with absolute precision, but what I can tell you with absolute certainty is that the US dollar is going to collapse. It has been collapsing since 1913. If you look and you research this, you'll see everything I'm telling you is fact. The U.S. dollar has now lost about 96.5% of its purchasing power, and we are in the year 2018, approximately October. I forget what day it is, but it's like October 10th. Let's just say. So it's lost that much purchasing power, and what do you see happening around the world? You see India discontinuing the 500 rupee note and the 1,000 rupee note within a matter of 4 hours, as demonstrated by other people online and by their government, and videos to back this up as proof. They're not keeping it a secret anymore. They're doing this on purpose. They're extorting people for gold in India, because that's basically what a majority of the housewives, how they retain their wealth is in gold, because they're not stupid. And what happens is the government comes along and they say that we're seizing this. Maybe for a crime, maybe not. But I can tell you this also. The United States, for instance, JP Morgan Chase and a couple other banks, big banks, have been stockpiling physical gold and silver. They've been doing this for a while now, and they're doing it with the guise of paper derivatives, where they're basically trading paper back and forth in the millions of ounces at a time, which isn't real silver. This is just paper, ETFs. Okay, so there you go. There's an ETF idea for you. As they do these derivative exchanges back and forth, and it suppresses the price. They're able to manipulate the prices through ETFs, through derivatives, through Wall Street. Everything is based on mathematics. Everything they do throughout history is based on mathematics, and that's how they operate. They use mathematics, the one true universal language that doesn't lie to people, and then they use it to lie to people and manipulate how people spend money, how people are able to save, how they pay their taxes, etc., etc. I feel that I owe it to people to share this information regarding Bitcoin. The NSA did create the hashing algorithm that Bitcoin uses. You guys are welcome to add me on Facebook. I made a post on November 5th, 2017, predicting that Bitcoin was going to have a parabolic curve, also known as a parabola, and that's a mathematical term. It basically means that there's around 3 to 5 steps in each stage of this plan. And each stage you can see when the price is going to jump. Now, either I use this information to predict the price, or I have some sort of insider knowledge, or I made a wild guess and I got very, very lucky. But whatever the case is, this information should not be ignored. I'm not looking for fame. I'm not looking for anybody to spread this video. I would just like to share this information to make it known to people of the public. That in the future, Bitcoin is going to have another parabolic curve, and you'll be able to see it coming. The NSA's plan, and this, like everything that they tell you, is classified. They manipulate the price. Okay, they use trading bots, they manipulate the price, and not to mention, when Bitcoin first started, it was touted as this digital currency that wasn't tracked by the government, wasn't invented by the government. It goes against all governments, but it really doesn't. This is part of their plan. They planned this. And it's genius. It really is. My hat is off to them. I would take my hat off, but my head is bald and I don't want to show that off on camera. Sorry. But their plan was genius, and it's going to work. I don't doubt that for a second. And at this point in time, I would not advise for anybody to go up against them. What I would advise, however, is to use their game against them. The first part of that is learning as much as you can about currencies of the world. Learn about how money works, learn about Wall Street. You don't need to know much about the mathematics of it. That's my line of work. I'm into mathematics and things of that nature, cryptography and such. But besides that, yes, everything that they've done throughout history has been planned, and it's been on purpose. Bitcoin in itself was created by the NSA, and this it was released around the same time that I was busted by the FBI in New Bedford at my house. They took all my computer equipment. I lived on 3rd floor. I also had a 2nd floor apartment, which they did not know about. At the time that I was busted, I was hacking cable modems and shipping them to people all around the world so that they could plug them in and get free internet access with a couple of simple steps. Now, I digress. So needless to say, I had a 2nd floor apartment. The warrant only covered the 3rd floor apartment, and on the 2nd floor apartment, I had some things backed up on a hard drive, which I guess you could say today that it was my life's work. So they took everything from the 3rd floor apartment and they seized it. They took it. They took all my money. They took my computers. They took all my cable modems. They took everything I had. And they questioned my ex-girlfriend. I'm not going to go into much detail, but what I'm going to tell you is this. Pay attention. Okay? Don't pay attention to the media. Don't pay attention to YouTube videos where people talk about price predictions or anything like that, because guess what? Honestly, they don't know what the price is going to be. Okay? That's an honest answer. The only people that do know the price, and get this, strange, isn't it? The NSA knows what the price is going to be. And the people pulling their strings, because this is their agenda. This is their plan to extract wealth from people, normal everyday citizens that work for their money, and steal from them. And then they say that they're doing a public service while extracting money from people through the legal system, through legalese and courts. I find that despicable to the highest degree, because if you're going to penalize somebody, penalize them with community service or put them in jail. Not at the hands of privatized corporations which take money from the taxpayer to lock somebody up. That is theft. That is theft. That is theft by the government to the taxpayer. And there's no better way to say it. They've been doing this for a long time now. Now you see in the United States, the population of prisons, it's almost, it's gotten crazy, okay? And there's a reason for it. It's because they're extracting wealth to retain control over long periods of time. And this is just one small pawn on their board that's being moved. Bitcoin, I'm gonna go back to this now because this is the important part. Bitcoin is manipulated through trading bots. There's no secret to that. There's no surprise. But what most people did not know is when these parabolic curves occur. But I'm telling you that if you do enough homework and you do your research, you can pretty much predict exactly when these things are going to happen. I don't pay attention to the news. Everything you watch, everything you hear, YouTube, CNBC, anything, newspapers, even from independent people, they could be contractors for the NSA, and you wouldn't even know it, to spread these stories to make you think a certain way. So do this. Instead of paying any attention to the media, any attention to any of these YouTube videos, including this one, do your own research, okay? Look at how Bitcoin has behaved in the past and how it's behaved recently. Everything happens over and over and over again. The government, they have a compulsion to repeat history. At the same time saying, oh, let's educate people so that we don't repeat history. Except nothing has ever changed. Nothing has changed and nothing will change, because all the tax money that you and I pay to the government is used on defense spending, which in other words could be called offense spending. They're doing this because they're gearing up for militarization of police forces and military everywhere. Now, they might not use men. They might use drones with missiles and bullets instead of people. Who's to say that can't happen if it hasn't already? I'm by no means advocating for anyone to go up against the government, because that's a very bad idea. Instead, my advice is to pay attention to the parabolic curve and then sell at the highest point when you make the most profit, like Wall Street. The NSA is doing this through Wall Street. And everything you ask them regarding Bitcoin is classified. What are the odds of that? Why couldn't they just say either yes, we have involvement in it, or no, we don't have involvement in it? Instead, they say, oh, we stand behind the principles of protecting the United States and their allies. I'm sorry, but their story it doesn't even make sense. They cover everything up with so much legal jargon that it confuses even the lawyers, okay? You can't keep track, and it's all on purpose. You know what I mean? The Constitution, why does it now have all these amendments made to it? The original Constitution, which when we had it, the country was actually in pretty good shape, right? Now over time, they've made so many amendments to it that the actual Constitution has been torn apart to the point where it's all up for interpretation by the judge, which is appointed from the Supreme Justice. And who chooses those people? The higher-ups from them. And who chooses them? The higher-ups from them. And then you get down to the source, to God, I guess you could call it. The people that invented the money supply are the people that are stealing from everyone else. And the people that work for them, they get paid very well from the other people that they steal from. And it's a big pyramid scheme. You look on the back of the United States $1 bill, you have the all-seeing eye at the top of it, and then you have the pyramid. Well, since when does the United States have anything to do with pyramids? Those are over in Egypt. So I think that shouldn't even be there. But they make it known what they're up to. They are causing a pyramid. Everybody that works is getting extracted. Their wealth is being extracted. Nobody can care for their families. Nobody can feed their families. But in the future, Bitcoin is going to have another parabolic curve. And the NSA's plan is to, at some point in the future, dump 1 million Bitcoins onto the network and cause a crash, cause panic, cause a collapse. And that's when government will either step in and create another cryptocurrency, or they'll already have one introduced, which might be Ripple, for instance. It might be something else. Who knows? But what I can tell you is that they did create the hashing algorithm. And if you guys really are paying attention and keeping up with this conversation that I'm having with YouTube right now, then you'll understand that if they released this hashing algorithm and it got out to the public, either leaked or by other means, it's already been reverse engineered. All right? So keep that in mind. So at some point, they'll either steal from everybody, tax everybody at will, and you won't be able to do anything about it. Because at that point in time, they'll have all the gold, they'll have all the silver, and they'll be in charge of how cryptocurrencies operate. So you see, this is all a plan that they have for world domination. And I'm sorry, but I feel like this is dangerous for me to be posting, and it probably is. I'm probably going to get prosecuted or killed. But you know something? This video is probably going to get deleted from the internet entirely. But the good thing about this video is that I've given it to multiple sources. So if anything happens to me, this will go viral. I promise you, by many means. Okay. So I urge people to stock up on silver. I'm not giving investment advice. This is just my opinion, okay? Stock up on physical silver, not the paper derivatives. Don't buy it from, Wall Street and NASDAQ. That's not where you want to get it from. You want to go to the sources that sell it, the exchanges that sell physical silver, that deliver them to your house for cash or Bitcoin or credit cards or any other type of payment. Because the US dollar is collapsing. It is going to collapse, and when it does, it's going to be very, very, very bad for a lot of people, except for the people that are controlling all this. I want to lastly apologize to everybody for my hand in all this. I feel deep regret. I wish that this had never happened. And if I could, I would take it all back. But it's already happened. So there's nothing anybody can do about it now, except for prepare for what's coming. And what's coming is not going to be good anywhere. They are going for complete domination over everybody. They already have their surveillance set up in space. On the highways, every couple of miles, you see the cameras. Those have infrared. The capabilities that they have are endless. So when they do enact a law, and when it comes down to chipping people, that's going to happen. It will happen in the future, I promise you that. The Bible prophesized all this. It's basically like the government's handbook to let people know that we're screwing people over and you need to be a good person, otherwise you won't go to heaven. Ha ha, see? Isn't that strange? How come they're allowed to break all these laws, do all these evil things to control people? Just like in the Bible. Oh, they try, Jesus pays attention to that one sheep that goes astray but leaves the 99 alone because they're all in line doing what they're supposed to be doing. Doesn't that sound familiar? It's almost like if you break the law, they're coming for you. But if they break the law, they write the law so nobody comes for them. But I'm telling you right now that the people have the power to take control into their own hands. The majority of people, there's no more democracy, there's no more Republicans, there's no more independents. It's all just a sham. Everything you see, if there's a person in charge, it's a scam. okay? It needs to be, the idea of decentralization is perfect. However, at the hands of who controls the decentralization is what bothers me the most. And this is all I'm going to say. Have a nice